Shalom, shalom. How's everybody doing? My name is Yeshiah Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This is not going to be a long speech or a long presentation. This is not a PowerPoint or anything like that. Well, something like that, essentially. Giving honor and due respect unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. I want to take this time out now on a particular channel here to just speak a little bit for a couple of minutes about my history within the nation of Israel. I stand before you, or in this case, sit before you, at the age of 38 years old, currently not a member of any set camp. All right. However, I started out at a camp in the Bronx in New York called Kol Sheaireit Bnai Israel, the age being the age of 2. My mother, may she rest in peace, was introduced to the understanding of being an Israelite in September of 1982. And then she came to a particular camp, that camp being Kol Sheaireit Bnai Israel, located in the Bronx, New York, in October of 1982. She did not bring initially me and my sister out to the camp there. Some may say temple there, some may say camp there. She didn't because she wanted to see how the people were in character before she brought me and my sister out to that particular place. I being at that age, being 2 years old at that time. The particular teacher at that place was a man named Moreh Yosef ben Ephraim, and his assistant was a man named Adon Yishai ben Lewi. May they all rest in peace now. In December of 1982, she was asked if she happens to have any Yeladim or children. The Moreh of the place went up to her and said, "Excuse me, Gaveret, or Salika Gaveret, do you happen to have any children?" And he being her senior, she certainly had no problem answering such a question because my mother, may she rest in peace, was a woman of respect and caliber. You understand? Moreh Yosef being born in the 1920s, my mother being born in the 1950s. He's old enough to be her father, so she just arbitrarily just answered yes. Moreh Yosef has children older than me. You understand? Moreh Yosef has children born in the same decade my mother was born in. So just giving you aspect of that. Moreh Yosef was the student of Rabbi Yirmiyahu, who was the student of Rabbi Matthews, all right? Or Rabbi Matthew, Wentworth Matthew, who helped start the congregation called the Commandment Keepers. Now, getting back to my particular immediate family and us coming into the understanding of Israel and some of the situations they're in. What happened essentially was we were brought out to a particular party, a Hanukkah party, if you will, back in December of 1982. And from that point on, we stayed in Kol Sheaireit. Being in Kol Sheaireit taught us, I can say for myself, a discipline. Because we were told, reading the book of Exodus, that we are not to cook on the Sabbath. So my mother, always being one who wanted hot food or something of that sort, she made sure the food was cooked already to see how it would be. She made the food when the winter months came along. Starting Wednesday or Thursday. Because coming in from work on Friday, in many cases, the Shabbat was already upon us. There was no ironing on Shabbat. You did your ironing of the clothes Thursday afternoon before you did your homework. And then you did your school homework. You understand? And then if there was still light and warm enough, you could still then go outside. That was the discipline that was taught. You understand? So Shabbat taught my family, I can say for myself, a discipline, a time and a place for everything. Everything is not meant to be done all the time. All right? So we stayed in Kol Sheaireit from 1982 until 1990, and we left from there. Having in my immediate family moved from Brooklyn to the Bronx. What's interesting is when we lived in Brooklyn, we went to a camp in the Bronx, but when we went to the Bronx, we eventually went to a camp in Brooklyn, this camp being called Bnai Adath. Bnai Adath was the camp that we went to from 1990 to 1992. The teacher at that time, may he rest in peace, was an elder by the name of Rabbi Yeshiah, and his assistant, who was his much younger person to him, was a person now known as Rabbi Baruch, and there was others. There was Adon Rabbi Zarkar. There was Adon Shalem. You know, I remember seeing functioning inside of Bnai Adath in those years. You understand? And it was a very unique experience that happened to me in Bnai Adath. My Hebrew teacher in Bnai Adath was a person, may he also rest in peace, named Adon Aharon ben Zebulun. And I remember him telling me when I was 11 years old that Hebrew isn't the problem. English is. Ancient Israel didn't speak English. We forgot our language. And he gave within me, blessed be his memory, the courage to want to go into Hebrew and learn it. The courage to want to go and study it for myself, to show myself approved, if you will. Passover, which came in April of 1991, we already being members of Bnai Adath at that particular time. The women sang a song in Hebrew. And I remember saying to my mother, who sat next to me, or should I say I sat next to her, I said, Mommy, what are they saying? And she looked and said, I don't know. At that point, I knew it was time to go beast mode in Hebrew. Taking the respect that Adon Aharon gave me, taking the fact that I saw women singing on Passover when I was 11 years old in 1991 in Bnai Adath, singing in Hebrew, I knew there was no question that it was going to be mine. Hebrew I claimed already before I even knew what the Sophite letters were. You understand, if we will. Now, that being at that particular point, I didn't see the point, and no disrespect intended, being taught about this, being taught that we are the Hebrews, being taught that King David didn't speak English, and to go year in and year out and not knowing Hebrew. You understand? If we can have a discipline, as stated from coming out of Kol Sheaireit, to make sure that the ironing was done, that the cooking was done, that the food preparation was done, that the transportation was, for the most part, already paid for prior to the Shabbat coming in. And this is coming out of a single household. If you always hear me talk also about my mother, no disrespect intended, but my father, may he rest in peace, was not in this understanding like that. So coming out of a single household, parent household, if you will, with two children, and us having that discipline being taught to us, coming out of Kol Sheaireit, and then seeing what happened in Bnai Adath with the women singing, and they sounding like they know what they're singing and what they're translating. No. There's no reason for me and my spirit, not to be haughty, for us to keep a day called the Shabbat, which is not an English word, and not understand the language that we say that we profess to be the people of. So I went beast mode, as the street term goes in Hebrew. I sat under, at that time, Adon Aharon. I sat under, may he rest in peace, Moreh Yeshiah. I sat under those particular men. Moreh Yeshiah teaching me how to write in ancient Hebrew. Adon Aharon giving me the courage on how to sit there and get into Hebrew. You understand? We left Bnai Adath under good circumstances. It was not a problem. It wasn't static or a confrontation or disrespect shown or anything like that. We only left because we wound up moving from the Bronx to Queens, and living in Queens, my sister happened to one day bump into the place called Hashabah Yisrael. You understand? So it was a closer distance. It wasn't, we didn't leave Bnai Adath because we had a problem with Bnai Adath. It was simply because Hashabah happened to be closer in distance. And that was the only reason why in 1992 we left. You understand? So now, when we get to Hashabah, for those who may have heard me speak about this in other videos and everything like that, that was the second place that had the most influence in my life. I sat under, may he rest in peace, Kohen Lewi. I sat under, may he rest in peace, Kohen Malkiel. I sat under, may the Most High continue to bless his life, Kohen Mikael, who became my most influential Hebrew teacher. Not my only Hebrew teacher, but the most influential. I called Kohen Mikael during the weekdays. How do you say this, Cohen? How do you say that, Cohen? You understand? Being in Hashabah, I saw many people I already were used to seeing, you may say, used to seeing in Kol Sheaireit. You understand, such as my brother, Akazia Benyamin. You understand, I'm used to seeing him in Kol Sheaireit, and then I happened to then see him in Hashabah with the drummers. And I was like, okay, following the footsteps of his father, Adonari, who was also a drummer in Kol Sheaireit. Now taking it to Hashabah in that particular regard. So looking at it in that particular aspect, seeing many brothers, such as Akwedmiel Menashe, that I knew since I was a little child, and his family, and Hashabah. You understand? Seeing at that time Adon Pinkas, who later on, after I got there, was given the title Kohen Pinkas. You understand? Seeing him since I was a child. You understand? I was like, okay, I'm familiar with some of the people. There was a man in Hashabah by the name of Adon Yehoshua Ben Dan. And I remember seeing some of his children going up to read in Hashabah. Mind you, when I got to Hashabah, I was 12 years old. You understand? In 1992. The Shabbat I was there, they called up his son to read. And I was like, yeah, I can do this. You know, if he can, I can. But by the time I had got to Hashabah, you understand, I was already reading Torah in Hebrew with and without the vowels. I'll explain that situation when I speak about Hashabah in conclusion of my life, all right? What happened with that? This is why I could never be atheist, but I'm explaining that in a second. Now, seeing the young children, not even no disrespect to them young men, these were young children, my peers. Like I being 12, I'm seeing 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds going up to read the Hebrew. I'm like, whoa, they're calling up the children to read. So I sat there and just let the people know that I'm available after we liked Hashabah, because you know, coming from my mother, it was let me test this place out to make sure it's suitable for the family. So when Hashabah was found to be suitable, you understand? I let the people know there that I'm able to read Hebrew. Getting back to Adon Yehoshua Ben Dan, he tested me to see how I was reading in Hebrew. He took what's called a tikkun, all right? And in this particular book called the tikkun, he opened it up, there's no English in it, all right? And said, read this. I think it was either Leviticus or Exodus. And I read it. And before I could get past 3 lines, he said, your name's on the list to go and read. The person who orchestrated, who read when, was an elder. May the Most High continue his life as well as Adon Yehoshua Ben Dan's life. Was an elder by the name of Adon Yatniel Ben Yehudah. And once I passed the test under Adon Yehoshua Ben Dan, not too long after that, I was called up to read. And taking the courage from Adon Aharon, taking the wisdom from Moreh Yosef, I went up there. Taking the character from Hashabah. You didn't go up to read with a little bit of money or any money in your pocket. So I made sure there was none in there. But you knew that you was going to be called up to read in most cases the week or two ahead of time. You understand? So looking at it in that particular aspect and in that particular regard, I began to sit there and know and see that it was an acceptable thing. I accepted Hashabah in my life. Hashabah accepted me. The first week, taking it back there that we went out there, obviously I didn't go to read then. we happened to, as stated, been living in Queens, and we went to Green Acres Mall, which is located in Long Island. And I saw some of the Israelites that I saw at Hashabah while I was working with my mother. And I said, Mommy, they go to Hashabah. And they looked at us like, yeah, we do. Who are you? It was so packed in there, they probably didn't remember, but us going there the week or the Shabbat prior to that. You understand? So when we wound up getting to re-meet them outside of Shabbat, we saw that there was no hypocrisy, is the point I want to emphasize in that. When Kohen Mikael had a class that he started or continued, I don't know which one it was, called Kitasika in Hashabah. And in that, I sat under him every Tuesday with my notes, with my pen, with my notes. Gamor, Gamor T, Gamor Ta, Gamort, Gamor, Gamra, Gamor Nu, Gamor Tem, Gamor Ten, Gabru, Him Gambru, Him Gambru. You understand? Anytime you have a wow at the second root letter, it drops off in the past tense. And I remember asking, those are some of the things that we used to go over in the Kitasika under Kohen Mikael. I remember asking him one time, I said, Kohen, what happens, and I'm being 13 years old at the time, I said, what does it mean in Hebrew when a mem is put in front of a word? And he looked at me and he said, that's for a later subject. And I said, okay, no problem. Point is this, there's steps, stages, and degrees. Just like even in martial arts, if you're a white belt, they're not going to train you for the blue belt yet. There's steps, stages, and degrees to this. You understand? To good, you want to advance to the blue belt, but let's get past the white belt, the yellow belt. You understand? Let's go in order with this. And that's what I gathered out of that particular aspect. So, taking it back to why I say I could never be atheist is while we were living in the Bronx, still attending Bnai Adath, which was in Brooklyn, I left early one Shabbat, went home and prayed to the Most High in 1991. And I said, essentially to the Most High to help me with Hebrew. This being on a weekday, so-called Saturday, on the Shabbat. That Monday, I was reading out of a tikkun. Not understanding what I was reading, but I was able to see that the Most High does hear prayer. That's why I could never, ever be an atheist. And that was is my testimony to the fact that Elohim, Hu Mamashi, Ha'el Elyon, Hu Hai, Hu Yishma, Hu Yodea Kol Debarim. And so looking at it in that particular regard, brothers and sisters, what I just said essentially is the Most High is real, the Most High lives, the Most High hears all things. Now, getting back to Hashabah, I remember one particular Shabbat, they played a beat called What's That Cohen, or What's Cohen talking about? He's talking about that wisdom, that wisdom. And I saw a particular brother playing what they call the first and the second bass. And the timbali's going in. I said, these guys are professional. These guys are no joke once it comes down to that. I could never personally hold the beat. Some of the brothers in Hashabah, such as the brother, my elder, now currently known as Kol Sheaireit, as well as the brother, my elder, Moreh Yeshiah, they actually try to pull me to the side to say Emiel, which is my old Hebrew name. Like, Emiel, you could come and be part of the drummers. But you know what happened? When they would have drumming practice, I would be home playing video games on so-called Sunday Yom Rishon. You understand? So I wasn't taking it serious. I wasn't taking it to heart. Yet on so-called Tuesday, Yom Shalishi, the third day of the week, I'm there taking the Hebrew classes. Jumpstart to 2005 and 2006, when the brothers are playing the drums on the train for revenue purposes, the only thing I can do is just help them carry the drum from one train car to the next. We know not to give Emiel or Yeshiah the drum because he can't hold the beat. Why? Because when the brother Kol Sheaireit and Moreh Yeshiah tried to help me, I played games. I didn't take it serious. Yet, when it came down to that Hebrew under Kohen Mikael, I wasn't playing games. And so being in that particular mode, giving thanks to the Most High. This is why you see videos of me teaching Hebrew online now, because what you put your time in years ago shows the fruit years later. That's the point with that. You understand? So, getting back now into Hashabah, I'm 13 years old, loving it, feeling it, seeing everything that there is to see. You know, the pizzazz, if you will, of the house of Israel. You know, um, reasons unbeknown to me, Hashabah closed there in 1995. I was 15. You understand? I don't know all the intricacies. 15, it's none of my business. But what I do know is Hashabah wound up going to Bnai Adath, and many people from Hashabah wound up going down south. You understand? Where they actually have a congregation near North Carolina now. You understand? I periodically speak to the brother Moreh Tavel. You understand? And his Hebrew, hands down, is better than mine. So what I do is when I do a Hebrew class, I sometimes send him the video so I can see constructive criticism. You understand? He knows that his dad is my teacher. You understand? I send my video periodically to the brother. May the Most High continue to bless him and his father's life. Yahya ben Moreh Mishael ben Yisrael. I send my video to Moreh Mishael's son by the name of Yahya. And I say, brother, let me know what you think about this. Because Moreh Tavel and Yahya ben Moreh Mishael, they're Hebrews. Their Hebrew knowledge is greater than myself. You understand? So I speak to my teachers' sons and have them critique me for edification purposes. Now, moving along in that particular regard, the next great thing in my life that happened as far as Israel, and I'm only going to stop at the age of 20, all right? And that is the fact of in 1996, I met with an Israelite brother, and he was telling me about his teacher, Chief Simeon ben Yehudah, from a congregation called Bnai Adath. I have never been to Bnai Adath, but I've heard of it. This being 1996, and I said, "Well, who's this teacher?" As stated, Chief Simeon, and I was like, "I never heard of Chief Simeon." You know, he was like, "Everybody's heard." I said, "Brother, I never heard of Chief Simeon." You know, and so when I finally did meet him, we talk in 1996, 1997 now. It was inside of a camp that was operated by a lady by the name of Mother Bradshaw in Brooklyn. And he walked in, and the brother was like, "That's Chief Simeon. That's Chief right there." And when I saw him, I was like, "Turban looks like that came out of Hashabah." Come to find out, those who promoted the turbans really started not out of Hashabah, but out of Bnai Adath. But I found that out as days went along. So now I stand up, I greet the man, we talk. I say my name at the time is Emiel, and I said I'm from Hashabah, you know. And he looked at me. He said, "You from Hashabah, brother?" And he, being older than both my parents, calling me brother, I was kind of like, okay, you know. And I was like, Cain Chief, you know." And then he started telling me about his history in Israel, going all the way back to the '60s. And I was like, okay, my parents were teenagers, as he was a teenager then, you know. And I said, as I was a teenager at the days in which I met him. And I said, this is a very serious thing at this particular point. We began to meet up, and he named the camp that he had Machaneh Yehudah. And that is when I learned history. I already, blessed be the Most High, knew Hebrew, but that is when I learned some history. Hands down. Anybody who knows Chief Simeon knows that he knows, or pardon me, may he rest in peace, knew that history. We went to his house one day, not to get too personal, and the amount of books that was there, I being about, you know, the average 16-year-old, you know, 5 feet something, the books that he had went over my waistline. And I said, okay, this is serious. And he gave me some books. Those books I do not take out of my house. That which had to go in storage, I do not bring them on the train to travel. When those who may see me in the camp with luggage, you would never see Chief Simeon's books in here because I'm not trying to accidentally lose them. You understand? And so he was a man of respect. He was a man of integrity, as Moreh Yosef was, as Cohen Levy was, as Kohen Mikael is, a man of integrity, whom I can say I have much respect and love for, whom I can say that I have much honor for. And anybody who knows me knows I, in layman terms, big up my teachers. That is not something I play with. I stay. Anytime I'm speaking, you're going to know on a human level who my teachers are and who my teachers were. The point. Doesn't make you any less of a moray to do so. Never trust somebody who says that they're self-taught. Because even if you learn something without a human teacher, it was the Most High who caused you to be taught that. So anyone proclaiming himself or herself as self-taught, that's not a good thing. So, in closing out this particular thing, at the age of 18, having already been taught Hebrew, having already been drilled, if you will, by Chief Simeon in a mind concerning history, and after getting, and I can laugh at it now, a verbal spanking from Chief Simeon when I tried to challenge him in history, and wrong thing to do, wrong thing to do. He verbally spanked me up and down Utica Park in Brooklyn. No disrespect intended, but I knew that the little bit of knowledge that I thought I had of history was nowhere compared to the level that Chief Simeon had. And it's still to this day, the man having been deceased over 10 years now, the level of history I have still does not match up to the level that Chief Simeon had. So I'm 18 now. I go to a congregation for familiarity, respect, called Khalutzay, Israel. I'm sitting with people who have children older than me, and they're asking me questions about Hebrew. What do I think concerning this and concerning that? Being made to teach the children while I'm 18 years old, 20 years ago from now. I sit before you at the age of 38. I started teaching officially at the age of 18 in Khalutzay, teaching Hebrew class. Brothers and sisters, we have to pass the baton on. We have to teach the people and never shun such. We have to learn also from the people. And this teaching goes beyond Hebrew, it goes beyond history. Whatever skill you can teach your brothers and sisters and youth, do it. With that, shalom.